All right. Mr. Lopez, can you see the captions? Lopez. Okay, doing a last minute check for the following students. Is Jaden Bob in the class? Jaden Bob. Is he in the class? Okay. Gabriel Patrick Ellis. Once again. Sorry. Gents, I'm asking the folks in the chat, stop the chat for the moment, please. I'm trying to take rules, so when it is I call a person's name, if it is that they aren't there, so hold on the chat for a moment, please. Thank you very much. All right, just want to check. Mr. Gaffney, is Mr. Gaffney in class? Okay, Grant just joined. Osei McIntosh. Has anybody heard from Osei in a while?
So apparently, Smith does stream the classes and send it to see.
So why isn't Osei joining the class so directly?
His phone mash up.
Oh, right. I understand. Okay, not a problem. Right. Thanks for telling me about that. Oh, well. I will get to the bottom of it. Okay, Johns? All right. Next person I'm looking for, Tyreek Rajkumar. Is he in the class, Tyreek?
Yes, sir.
All right, just checking. Okay, cool. I'll make a check for the form for the previously missing persons and see what's up with them. Okay, so it is 11 past, and let us get started with the class as it is. Tristan, just a check. You can hear now? Great. Okay, so I'll take off captions then. Okay. So that being said, let us get started. So last class, we were looking at the Renaissance, the Reformation, many of the improvements that were actually being done during the Renaissance. And we were looking at part of the different reasons, the several different reasons why persons were looking to travel and go and explore, whether it was for items, for spices, for weapons, for craft items, for tools, for value items considered of great value, whether it was from as far as Russia, Arabia, China, India, or wherever. And then we even looked at the fact that to some extent, persons had started searching for gold. I think was either this class or the last class. But I'm going to present now, and we're going to look today at the role of Portugal in this whole age of exploration. Right? So that is what we're going to focus on.
Sorry, sir, connection issues.
Not a problem. Morning, Mr. Gaffney. Welcome. Right? Alright, so. Okay, so Portugal leads the way. Right? And, okay, just double checking. All right. So I don't know if last class we had looked at the use of navigational technology. We had talked about the fact that they had spoken about a quadrant, right? So they had spoken about a quadrant. They had spoken about the astrolabe, both of which used the sun and stars, well, different stars, I should say, because the sun is a star technically, to calculate the distance that was traveled each day. And then you had the compass, which also, increased the accuracy in terms of what direction was traveled. All right. So that was something that we also took note of, or I wanted, hopefully we took note of. So what we're going to be looking at would be Portugal leading the way. So I would like Mr. Allen, Jean-Marc Allen, to please read the first paragraph for us, The Merchants of Europe.
So you came, right?
Mm-hmm.
Clearly.
Yes, I am.
Alright, the first paragraph starting with the merchants, right?
Yes, sir.
Alright. The merchants of Europe had developed new methods of trading. No longer did they simply exchange a woolen blanket for a bag of spices. They demanded payment in gold and silver currency, and they set up banks so that they. So I can't really see the left side. That they did not have to carry large amounts of valuable coins around with them.
All right, great. Actually, that was a pretty great job there. Thank you so much. So, taken away from that paragraph. So, I'm gonna ask Mr. Blades. Mr. Blades, from that paragraph, what were the essential points that you picked up from that paragraph?
They got payment from silver and gold, and they used to trade with spices and
One other thing. One more thing. Hiya.
and they traded coins.
No, the coins of silver and gold is that they set up banks. That's the last thing. They got 2 out of 3, so I still get props for that. So one, as you rightfully said, right? They developed new methods of trading. So there was no longer a trade of goods, as in I'll give you 6 pounds of lentil peas for 4 pounds of red beans. There's no longer that kind of a trading or bartering. That was the term actually that was used. The Mayans, the Aztecs, the Inca, most of the pre-Columbian or prior to Columbus coming societies had used that system called bartering, right? Where it is you trade goods for trading, trade goods for goods. No money or no form of currency was passed. However, now, right, what we're looking at now is that there's a change in the nature of how trade was being done. So no longer are you trading goods for goods, as in no longer am I trading you items that I have, or only I have, for items that you that only you have. It's now a matter of I'm trading goods for coin in form of gold and silver. I think part of the reason might be that the East, everyone in Europe is trying to trade with the East, right? So think about it. So let's say, for example, I'm just using an example. Let's say Mr. Jade and Bob, right? So let's say Mr. Bob was from the East, right? Mr. Bob has porcelain, gunpowder, paper, all these different stuff coming out to the east. And we might have, let's say, for example, Mr. Boslan, CL2, and Mr. Gaffney, who are trading with him from 3 different European countries. Each of them is bringing something to Mr. Bob in an attempt to trade with him. But it gets to a point where it is, let's say, Mr. Let's say that Mr. Boslan is trading radios with him. Mr. CL2 is trading headphones, and Mr. And Mr. Gaffney is trading cell phones. All right. After a while, what's gonna happen is that I might say, is that Mr. Bob might say, okay, he might say to Mr. Boslan, okay, I have enough radios, So Mr. Boslan trying to think quick might say, well, how about if I give you phones? But the problem is, Mr. Bob is already getting phones from Mr. Gaffney. So he has no need. So in other words, Mr. Boslan doesn't have anything exclusive that Mr. Bob is already getting. He isn't already getting. You understand where I'm coming from? So that forces Mr. Boslan to try and find something else, which is where gold and silver come in. So gold and silver currency come in, and they said, okay, not a problem. Let's do this. All right. So I'm gonna, instead of me trading goods for goods, gonna start trading gold and silver as we go along. Now, what ends up happening is that because on the overland routes, right, we still have bandits and whatnot, we said, well, here's what then. Let's start to set up a system of banks. All right. Where it is I don't have to physically transport money to and from or with me and run the risk of being robbed. All right. So they tried to set up a banking system similar to how we have it in modern day, that each and every time, let's say Mr. CL2 wanted to withdraw money, he does not have to go to the same branch, which is round the corner from where he's living, to withdraw $15,000 and then try to travel on a maxi with $15,000 sitting on his pocket and run the risk of being robbed. He does not have to run that risk. What he can do is he can travel, and when he reaches close to by Mr. Bob's location, then he could withdraw the money from a branch closer to Mr. Bob and give him the money. So they tried to set up a banking system very similar for that purpose. Are there any questions or concerns at this point in time?
Sir,
Yes?
in those times, how did they know how much money each person had?
They would have had different records of what was deposited at the point in time. Okay? And you'd have to use whether it is a particular seal, signature, fingerprint, blood symbol, or fingerprint dipped in blood or something like that, depending on where you were, as proof that you were who you were. So some random person could just step in and withdraw your money from another bank, claim it to be. Yes.
And they just stock up with coins in case you have to withdraw.
Yeah, so it was like that. It was based on a system assuming that, you wouldn't have overdrafting, that persons, like they say, like they would have it as a way that, okay, Mr. CL2 might come to withdraw, Mr. Gaffney might go to deposit. All right, so they try to balance it out that, it was risky, as I said, you could run the risk of more persons coming to withdraw than deposit, but at least that's what they tried to avoid, with the banking system. because remember, things aren't electronic. It's not to say, well, you automatically, you know.
So, but when you go from one place to another,
Mhm.
like really quickly, how would they know? Do they? How
No,
would
well, as I
they?
said, as you do a transaction at one bank, you get a piece of paper or whatnot as a record that you've deposited X amount of money.
Oh,
Yeah, so you see, by ensuring that, because, in other words, the person who's withdrawing is usually, so the same way how, let's say, for example, right, let's say we had a bank, let's say we had one bank in Trinidad and one bank in Tobago, right? The same way how Trinidadian merchants might deposit money in the Trinidad bank and then travel across to Tobago and withdraw the money there, right? At the same time that is happening, you would have Tobago merchants who would deposit money in the Tobago bank and then travel to Trinidad and withdraw from the Trinidad bank there. So it was a kind of a balance system like that now. I don't know if that made sense.
yes.
All right, let me just double check in the chat to make sure if anybody. All right, so Mr. Cielto, you sell cloth. All right, so not sure exactly the context of that one. Okay, I probably missed out on that. Okay, so moving on. Now, I'm
Sir,
going to ask. Yes?
I could read you.
Yeah, why not actually? Let's just. Let me just pick up. Right, Mr. Jardim, why not?
Sir.
So, next paragraph. The advances in trading.
The advances in trading and the widespread use of coins meant that the Europeans had to find new sources of gold. Europe already knew about the rich ports of Cathay and Sipangu. People had also heard from Arab traders that there were large quantities of gold in the land of Guinea, on the west coast of Africa. Because she had a very clever prince, Portugal was soon leading the race of gold.
Race for gold, right? Okay. So, Mr. Moses, question: What is the modern day for? What is the modern day name for Cathay? What is the modern day name for Cathay? Just to recap, let's see if it is close to paying attention.
Sir,
Yes.
Isaiah put in chats BRB.
Oh, all right.
Yes, sir.
All right, all right, all right. Fine. All right. So, guess I'm gonna ask Mr. Murray then. Mr. Murray, would you be so kind as to attempt remembering, or attempt what Marco Polo, what the modern day for Cathay is, what the modern day name is? Mr. Murray. Mr. Murray. All right. Mr. Zeng, you can help us out. Modern day name for Cathay. Yes, it is. Very good. Very, very good. All right. And Sipangu, obviously, would be what, Mr. Charles Thomas?
Japan.
Right. Okay, cool. Thank you so much. So, here it is, we said. So, you realize now that in finding in this search for gold, right, the fact that that trade has changed the point where it is the need to, where it is the need to actually use gold to actually purchase items, all right? What ends up happening is that you find that persons, are going to start looking for places because more gold increases your purchasing power. It increases the amount of items that you can purchase, right? So the more gold you have, better it is for business, right? Or silver. And they found that it was on the western coast of Africa that, they found a pretty large source of gold and silver and mineral wealth. So what ends up happening is a person start traveling there. And, the person who could reach there first, reach there the quickest and whatnot, would be able to acquire the most amount of gold. Fortunately for Portugal, because she had good leadership in the form of Prince Henry the Navigator, that is how it is they led the race for gold. Now, we'll go more into Prince Henry the Navigator in a bit, but I want us to take a look at the different types of ships that were being, used at this point in time. Anyone remembers the new types of ships that were being developed at this point in time? Start with a C.
Crusader.
Nope. Sorry.
Caravel.
Yes, Caravel. That is correct. All right. Now, so I want us to understand that. Okay. So here it is. We have that define Caravel. So the word is actually even here. So if you look at the cursor, you'll be seeing a Portuguese Caravel. All right. And you'll be watching all the different types of masts and sails. So you have the top mast with the top sail and the mizzen mast with the mizzen sail and all these different stuff. All right. Here it is with the Roman merchant ship. You had one big sail. But as I said, these are things that will, came into being as time went along, So,
Sir,
over the
I just
centuries,
wanted to know, the call does sometimes freeze for me, so I might miss some useful stuff.
Okay. Not a problem. We have a way of reinforcing that. So, the thing is, over the centuries, larger and stronger ships were developed with more masts and sails. This is a Portuguese caravel showing the names of the different parts of the ship. Well, as I said, you don't really need to know all these different names and all that, all right? But just know that the term caravel refers to the new type of ship being created during the Renaissance, or as a result of the Renaissance in the age of exploration. All right? So, here it is, we have Prince Henry of Portugal. And to help me find out a bit more, or help us find out a bit more about Prince Henry the Navigator of Portugal, I'm going to ask Alejandro Smith to read the first paragraph for us on the screen.
Sir, he don't have a mic.
He doesn't have a mic, sir.
Okay, not a problem.
He's typing.
Now, all right. Thanks a lot then. Thanks a lot then, Mr. Smith.
Sure.
All right. Understood, respect. Okay, Mr. Singh. David, would you be so kind as to read the first paragraph first, please?
Okay, sir.
Yes, please.
Just now, give me a second. Prince Henry of Portugal was responsible for many improvements on sailing ships. He encouraged sailors to use the most up-to-date equipment and ships. He felt that those who were in charge of ships should know enough about science and geography to be able to develop Portugal's system of shipping. Because of this, he was known as Henry the Navigator.
All right, thanks a lot. So, you understand why it is he's called the Navigator, right? He was encouraging, that anybody affiliated with the sea had the most recent knowledge that was being rediscovered, that was being, that any new conclusions, the latest maps, tools, whatever it was, he was making it possible for them. Because the thing is, the person who had the most up-to-date, or, the person with the most well-equipped sailors and the ships would be the country that could lead the race for gold, which inevitably meant that they could travel, quickly to the east and get there and buy items and make profit. So it's all about money. All of this, he was investing in knowledge, so that way they'll be able to use their knowledge to further the acquisition of mineral wealth and money and whatnot, or goods for sale. All right. So it was an investment in that. He was actually getting persons to educate themselves. And as I said, that's why eventually Portugal started leading the race, not just in terms of knowledge about the sea and how to travel and mastering how to travel it and exploring, but in terms of, acquiring gold and mineral wealth and exploring, because they were the ones who were there first out of all the European countries. I stress that last part. So, just doing a check in between. Gabriel Patrick Ellis, are you here? Okay, Jaden Bob. Is Bob in class? All right, not a problem. Okay, I'm gonna say he isn't here.
Sir, I missed an entire 2 minutes of education.
Wow.
LOL.
Freeze.
All right. Well, Mr. Zeng, what's going to happen is that, usually I tend to give you all some questions to be able to actually, based on the text and whatnot, or on this, on the chapter. So I will be doing that, which will help reinforce some of the information. And
Excuse me, when is the first test?
I will let you know. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll let you know. Yeah,
I don't like pop
exercise.
tests.
Nah, remember, I do deal up in surprise to something. That's not my seat. So,
That is not nice.
Sir, one time, my primary school teacher forgot we had master morning and spring a pop quiz on me. So instead of being in church, we was doing a pop, we was doing a test.
Dude. Maybe you missed a time with Jesus? Oh, Lord. All right. Well, at least you don't have to worry about that with me. So, asking, let me see, Mr. Moses. Wait, right. So, Mr. Moses, you say you're back, right? Yeah? Yes, you said? Right. So, Mr. Moses, can you read the next paragraph for us, please?
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Encouraged by Prince Henry and having studied geography and astronomy to help them navigate, the Portuguese sailors began to sail down the west coast of Africa. With each voyage, they went further down the coast, and by 1472, they had sailed as far as the
Bight of
Brittany. They brought back news of wealthy African kingdoms which were willing to trade in slaves, gold, ivory,
right, ostrich feathers,
and other
merchandise, right. Okay, great. All right, so this paragraph just kind of reinforces everything that we had said in terms of their ability to explore, all right, parts of Africa, and all the different things that on the western coast of Africa, and all the things they were able to bring back: slaves, gold, ivory, ostrich feathers, and other merchandise. Notice that the trade in slaves, African slaves, started all since where? So since now, 1472. Please take note of that. All right, because later on they're going to blame another guy, a priest, for the start of African slavery. But please let us take note that this was happening long before that. All right. Okay. So in 1484, the successor of Prince Henry, King John II, set up a special committee to deal with matters of navigation and routes to the east. The scholars on this committee studied many old books and papers on geography. Reason why? Remember, as I said, there's a lot of information that was lost and is now being rediscovered. So that's why it's good to keep historical records. That's why they are going through historical records, because they realize that the ancient historical records, depending on if it's historical records of old voyages that were done at a point in time or whatnot, actually gave them insights into being able to push their limits on how far they can travel, where they can travel to, and even expand their horizons on places that they didn't even know existed. All right. So these included the work of the ancient Greek geographer Ptolemy, Marco Polo, and other thinkers and travelers through the ages. All right. So with that, going to be asking Mr. Josiah Thomas, could you be so kind as to read the last paragraph on the page first, on the screen first?
In 1487, Bartholomew Diaz was sent with 3 small ships to find a way around Africa. He sailed further than any European had before. After being blown out to sea by a storm, he realized that his ships had sailed around the south of Africa. Diaz had fulfilled the dream of Henry the Navigator. He had found the sea route to the Indies.
All right. So, and here it is, right? Well, we'll come to this. 5 years later, an even more amazing voyage occurred, and this time it was not Portuguese ships which led the way, but 3 Spanish vessels captained by an Italian called Christopher Columbus. Of course, we'll come to Columbus in a bit, but notice Portugal is around here, and they actually have Prince Henry of Portugal, they marked it, and they're showing all the different, different places that they would have reached to and in different years. So reaching Cape Bojador in 1432, Cape Blanco 1441, then 1445, 1460. You have Axim, Sharma, Elmina, Benin, right? Remember, we just talked about the Bight of Benin. So these are different places. And if it is your look, you'll see on different maps, Gold Coast, Ivory Coast, Slave Coast, whatnot. And then it says we have the other points, Cape St. Catherine, 1475, 1486, 1481, different locations that they ended up, Luanda, Benguela, Cape Cross. And then you have Bartholomew Diaz, all right, who ended up 1487, all right, that's around. And these are different other explorers, Diego Cam, Fernando Gomez, who actually also were responsible for these particular voyages or stops. Yes?
When Bartholomew Diaz was going around there, he got blown to the west.
No. All right. No. When they talk about that, in other words, he's going back right. So he is going right. So Asia's on this side. Is on the east here. Right. So let me bring it up on Google Earth for you. Okay, so let's prep, gentlemen. There is going to be some lagging at this point in time. Do apologize because we all know. Well, I realize once I bring up Google Earth, things tend to slow down a bit. But it is a useful tool because it allows us to visualize. And I think that's what's been helping many of you all to understand how this was taking place, is that we have maps to actually visualize. All right, some of us may not know how geography much as well as we, so that's okay. We're here to learn, but it's just that this helps. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit more. Right. So if it is, we look at Africa, right? We'll be seeing that all these different. So you see many handles here, right? And you're going to be seeing where it is that this particular hand is traveling down around Africa. And Bartholomew Diaz ends up here, 57. But beyond here, and this is Madagascar here, beyond here, reaching to India, China, and the East. So notice that. Now what Diaz and the Portuguese were running. So they were running a route here that ended up here. Was going from here. Well, he wasn't even thinking here this had existed. So and he was thinking, keep sailing, keep sailing, keep sailing, keep sailing, and end up, bam, on this side. That's what he was thinking. All right, but that's a whole different story for another day. All right. That being said, I am going to.
So he thought he was going back.
So that being said, I'm gonna stop here. Yeah, as I said, they didn't even know. For them, many of them didn't even realize that the Americans had
to Spain, to Portugal.
Pardon?
He thought he was going to after he went by China.
He thought he was going by China. He thought he was going by India. Which is why it is he called it. Yeah, so don't worry.
So then after he just go around the earth.
That's what he thought. Yeah, as I said.
So how long was that journey?
Thinking that. We shall look into that in the next class.
Because their ships were not as advanced as our own, so that would take like a while.
Yeah.
A while.
So he ended up making it to China, or he just got blown away?
No, he ended up reaching here and thinking here was some islands off the coast of India, which is why it is he called us Indians, and which is why it is we got the name Indies.
So did he make it to China, or he just got?
No, that's what I'm telling you. No, he did not. He ended up here, and he died thinking that we were islands just off the coast of Asia.
Oh.
Yeah. So he named us based on misconception or lie.
We had a name before?
Well, I'm pretty sure the indigenous people would have had names before. Yes, we did. They would have had. All right, but we'll get into that in next class, or in next couple of classes, I should say. All right, so gentlemen, that being said, I am going to drop on you, gentlemen, some different questions, as you'll see I have here. All right, but when I do drop that in the stream, I'll let you know when those questions or the answers for those questions will be due. All right, and you will have the textbook available to use. All right. So, not a problem. Don't worry about it.
Excuse me, what pages are those?
Well, these are, this is actually from book 1. So, I will make this available to you.
Okay.
This particular
Okay.
chapter. So, I will make
think
this
it's around-
available to you.
Is that wrong? 159?
Well, in book 1, yeah, it's 154.
Okay, I'll look into that.
All right, but as I said, I will have it made digitally available to you, so don't worry. All right, I might have to break a law or two, but small thing. Anyways, so gentlemen, you all take care. Have a great day.
So when we can learn about samurai?
Yeah, we are.
Yes, so one, don't it yourself.
Pardon?
Bye.
All right, bye, gentlemen.
Bye, sir.
All right,
That's
bye,
a one,
everyone.
doesn't it yourself.
Ah, yeah. Sorry, shall not be teaching you about the ways of the samurai.